Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I got asked a question last week that went into Sunday's Q&As that I chose to go ahead and give their own video because I just feel like this sort of question can't be covered in a little 2 or 3 minute sound bite. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my crafting a little bit. Let's talk about this because this person basically asked, is it acceptable to train certain body parts or half of your body? This is usually where this is most common. It's oftentimes an upper versus lower body situation, but this could apply to other body parts. That's just going to be the most common variation of it. But this could be applied to a few different places. And the question is more or less asking, can you use a different program and a different progression pattern for one part of the body versus the other? Now, as someone who promotes mostly full body training and a lot of full body exercises, I'm going to say, even though I promote that sort of stuff, I'm not big on breaking the body up. Because again, I'm not really into competitive bodybuilding per se, but rather strength, fitness, things like that. But, you know, it's still permissible even in the latter situation. Let's be honest here. If you have a major imbalance that has been created by imbalanced training, you may have to run a different program to balance things out for the different body parts. And why is that? Because simply put, if, for example, you've really focused on your bench press and your upper body, right? You've really focused on that. You spent 2 or 3 years working really hard on that. Let's say you've gotten pretty good. You got a 275 or 315 pound bench press already. Maybe you can crank out 225 for 10 or 12 reps. Maybe you're even pretty strong on chin-ups and pull-ups. You know, you've developed a relatively strong, developed upper body through several years of training, but you've either half trained your legs, neglected them, didn't train them at all, or just gave them a half effort because, you know, you have a leg day once a week. And even that you half-ass it. You don't even come in to do heavy squats. Whatever. Or you barely train your lower body. You obviously will have developed a very large imbalance there. And from a recovery perspective, a gains perspective, everything else, obviously you wouldn't use a standardized program, meaning you wouldn't go run something like my intermediate off-season program. You wouldn't run something like that because it has totally similar demands upon the entire body. In other words, you run a similar progression pattern with your bench press and overhead press that you do with your squat and even your deadlift. That's obviously not going to work once you develop that sort of imbalance. And yeah, we could argue that your lower body, you might have the lower body of a novice still. You know, if you're benching more than you squat, you probably have the lower body of a novice. But that can be fixed, but you've got to go back and train your lower body like a novice, and you can't train your upper body like a novice. You can't. It's not going to work. And a lot of that comes down to the fact that once you developed a certain amount of strength, or particularly a relatively advanced level of strength and size in a given region of your body, your ability to actually overtrain your entire system or train your system enough through that body part that your entire body's recovery is going to slow down as a result of it, that becomes more and more possible the more advanced you get. I mean, obviously, a total noob can overtrain really easy. They actually can, because training itself is borderline overtraining. Meaning, if you've been sedentary your whole life, or for a few years and you come back to training, your body is so not used to training that doing anything, just following any regular routine, almost pushes you to the point of overtraining. And in fact, if you push too hard in your first month in the gym, that's where injuries happen, overuse injuries happen, burnout happens, extreme DOMs happen. People have workouts where they can't walk almost for 2 days. You know, that's common because training itself is almost more than your body can handle. But once you've been training a little while, what you find, usually after about the first 4 to 6 weeks, you develop enough work capacity and adaptation to exercise and training that you can actually handle a decent amount of volume. You have a decent amount of work capacity and maximum recoverable volume at that point. You're probably not strong enough to reach those limits. Meaning, unless you push your whole body, like 7 or 8 different big exercises, you really can't vary your recovery at that point. Not in your first year in the gym, not the first 6 months, once you finish that noob phase. But when you get more advanced, what you're going to find is that it gets easier and easier to do that. In other words, someone who can squat 500 pounds can overtrain with a lot less perceived effort than someone who can only squat 200 pounds. And the reason is they're capable of generating 2.5 times as much tonnage and workload. Their work capacity goes up as you get more experience, but your strength goes up faster than your work capacity does. So yeah, I mean, if you were to take someone who squats 500 pounds and put them on starting strength or my novice 5x5, they would actually burn out relatively quickly because the progression, the percentages, the workload for someone of their strength level would be too much. It'd be too much. In fact, if they did just the squatting version of it and they didn't do any other exercises, that one exercise could bury them. Well, the same thing could happen with your upper body. If you developed a respectable bench press and you've got a pretty strong chest, shoulders, triceps, biceps, things like that, you've built them to where they're fairly strong through several years of consistent training, and you were to try to run a standard novice program for your upper body if you haven't really been training legs, your upper body work would probably be enough that it would cause you to have recovery issues, and even to the point to where your squat, your deadlift, your leg press, all of that stuff would even suffer, because you're capable of generating tonnages if you were to try to follow the percentages and numbers and progression rates set on a novice program, that your upper body would bury you and it would actually limit your lower body gains. So when you find yourself in that sort of situation where there's an obvious strength imbalance or muscle imbalance, training the weaker body parts and the weaker exercises using a less advanced method will work. And the reason being, those body parts are lagging, those lifts are lagging, those areas are capable of growing quicker. All right, and because they are weaker, they can't generate the workloads as easy that you could overtrain on. Meaning, if you're only squatting 200 or 225, if that's your max squat right now, but you can bench 225 for 10, obviously your legs and your squat, you're really not strong enough to push your whole body that hard yet. You could actually come in and do a fair amount of volume of squatting, and you could get stronger quickly and progress week to week relatively quick on your squat, and actually gain muscle pretty quick in your lower body that you just wouldn't be able to get away with the upper. You wouldn't be able to go and throw the same percentages and template at your upper body, your bench press at that point, and adapt properly. You're gonna flounder with it. So at that point, it makes sense to run two different programs. Meaning you could run a more advanced program. You could run something like Mad Cows or some sort of intermediate block periodization for your upper body lifts, and go back and do for your lower body lifts like your squat, your deadlift. You could do a novice strength program. You could run starting strength. You could run something like my 5x5, a hybrid of it, I suppose. You could run a program like that for your lower body lifts, and it will probably adapt just fine, because the upper body will be working within its limits based upon your experience level, strength, work capacity, and your lower body will be able to handle a different sort of workload. Now, obviously, at a certain point, you've still got to balance things out because of system-wide fatigue. System-wide fatigue can still be a problem for you. It can still be a problem, but it's manageable, and you probably have enough training experience by then from the parts of your body that you did focus on too much to make it work. And you know what? The same concept can be used for weak point training. What if you do have a lagging body part, or you do have a lagging lift? I don't care. Maybe your bench press sucks. Maybe your squat sucks. Maybe your arms just lag behind your chest and legs and everything else. You could totally adopt a less advanced and a higher volume, higher progression rate, and higher frequency training approach for that lagging area, while running for everything else in your body something that is more appropriate for your experience level, size, strength, goals, things like that. So it could be done the same way for a single lagging muscle group. It could be done the same way for a single lagging exercise. And you can go back and prioritize it. And you prioritize it by running a less advanced program. Let's be honest, doing 5 sets of squats 3 times a week for 15 total sets of squats and adding weight to the bar every week, that's novice level training. No advanced lifter is going to do that. They're going to flounder if they try to do that most of the time, but a novice lifter can. Because that's novice type training. To come in and do, large volumes on big compounds, moderately heavy weight, a lot of workload, and to add weight every week, that's novice level training. Well, a lagging body part might be less advanced enough compared to everything else you have that you can treat it in that manner, and it will go ahead and respond to it, while you train everything else in a more advanced manner. And that's the things that people need to remember. The biggest differences between more advanced lifters and less advanced lifters means that the more advanced lifters simply cannot adapt as well, and they cannot add weight and add workload as quickly. without overtraining and without stalling out. They can't. That's the biggest difference. So an advanced program is slow progression, and you have to moderate maximum recoverable fatigue with the amount of workload you're putting in. You've got to try to balance the two and keep them in check. Whereas a novice program is all about just hammering away in constant progress. That's the big difference. A novice program is way more aggressive than an advanced program, and that's the best way to look at it. And it's more aggressive because less advanced lifters can adapt faster. They have more gains to make, and their body responds more quickly to the novel stimulus. Once you're more advanced, it doesn't. You stall out really easy. You can overtrain a lot easier. You can beat yourself up a lot easier because you're a lot stronger, and it takes a lot to make your body adapt to anything new. And sometimes anything that's capable of causing your body to adapt and make small gains when you're advanced is enough to borderline overtrain you. With a novice lifter, that's not so much the case. They can handle large amounts of sets, reps, frequency, things like that. They can handle adding weight to the bar every single week, and they'll actually get bigger and stronger every single week. So that you can program them more aggressively, and that applies if you have to split your body up for whatever reason due to different parts of your body, lifts, exercises, body parts, whatever they happen to be, just falling behind and lagging behind for one reason or another. It could be injury, it could just be the way you trained them in the past. There can be a lot of reasons. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.